Hello, welcome back to Casablanca. As this is the 30th episode, and every 10th episode I do a double episode, a little double review, it's not review, I cover 2 movies every 10th episode, that's basically what I'm getting at. It just happens to fall on the week of Barbenheimer. On Thursday night, I went and saw Barbie, and then I saw Oppenheimer. And yeah, it just happens to fall on the same week that I have a 30th episode. I have a 10th episode. So here we go. I'm gonna cover Barbenheimer. Both movies. First off, Barbie. Because that's the one I saw first, and the first part of the word. So, Barbie, as I'm sure everybody knows, was directed by Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, American Ferrera, Kate McKinnon, Michael Cera, and, so many more. I couldn't even list them all. And when you see the trailers for Barbie, you think, oh, I know what I'm going to get into. You think you know what the movie's about. And, yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say that, basically, a majority of the footage from the trailers is just the first half hour of the film. It was funny watching it because I was like, oh, I remember that from the trailer, and I remember that, and that's at the beginning? Oh. And finally I was like, oh, I think this movie is not what I expected. Because watching the trailer, you have a general idea of what you think it's going to be, and I don't want to say what I thought it was, because I don't want to spoil it by saying what I thought it was and saying it's not that. This is also why I stopped reviewing movies that just came out, because it's hard to talk about, because I don't want to spoil anything. I will say that as the movie was ending, as the credits were going up, and then the guy sitting next to me, that was a packed theater. The guy sitting next to me stood up and he goes, yeah, Republicans are not going to like that movie. And I was like, yes, that is true. They definitely will not like that movie. And sure enough, I think if you've been on Twitter the last few days, you've seen the reaction of that side of the internet. And yeah, which is proof that you should probably watch a movie all the way through, or not just go by a few clips before reacting. Or if you do watch it all the way through, actually pay attention, because, yeah, literally all the criticisms I've seen that the Ben Shapiro's of the world have been posting, those complaints just prove that either they didn't watch to the end, or they just reacted without actually paying attention. Because the movie isn't about what they think it's about. And I think it's hilarious that they reacted the way they did. Now, for the comedy in the movie, meta humor is still a very big thing, and every time I think, oh, they can't get any more meta humor than that, they one up it. This movie, I was not expecting that, because I know Mattel was obviously going to be part of it. Mattel had something to do with this movie being made, and I remember I saw an interview with Greta Gerwig where she said when she saw the script, she got sad because she was like, this is a great movie, I just wish we could make it, or they're never going to let us make this movie. And yeah, I see now why she said that, because Mattel gets bashed in this movie. Mattel gets so much. Mattel gets trashed so much in this movie that you would have thought like a competing company made the movie, but like it was they who made it, and I think it's great. I like whenever celebrities or brands are able to make fun of themselves like that, and yeah, like especially since Barbie has kind of a problematic history, they're able to address it, and then even be like, "Oh, it was Mattel's fault. They're the ones to blame." And it's like, wow, they really did that. It's amazing, like how much they were able to put in it. Not even just the meta stuff, like even like the fan servicey nostalgia stuff in there. Like it was packed full. It's kind of like how the Mario movie was packed full of hidden Nintendo Easter eggs. That like there was even some in like Mario's room that you had to like. In order to even see it, you'd have to like stand back and like unfocus your eyes or something. And oh, that's the like golfing game poster from like the mid '80s, and the whole movie was like that. Well, the Barbie movie was like that. There were so many references in there, and I watched a bunch of like Easter egg videos, and like one of them was like over an hour long, and I was like, wow, they just jam-packed this thing. It's just, which is cool when you get a filmmaking team who actually, they care about the subject matter. They care about the source material and, the subject and everything, and actually take the time to put all those details in there. They very easily could have just done like a really quick cash grab, CGI filled nonsense mess that made a couple $1 million and be like, there, we did a good job. But this one, I would not be surprised if it makes over $1 billion, because yeah, it was very well done, and like the sets and everything. And there's that news story that went around I thought was funny. It was they actually there's a pink shortage because they used so much in the movie. And the second movie was Oppenheimer. I saw an IMAX, the 70mm version, and I've never actually received anything in the theater. Like, how sometimes for like special screenings, they'll give you something as like a souvenir or whatever. Because this was like a special screening, it was like the first showing, and it was a 70mm edition. They gave everybody who attended a cut of the film. Literally, yeah, it's like I think everyone got the same thing, though. It wasn't like, everyone gets a separate cut of the film, because it was 3 frames from the film, and then there was like a 4th panel that just had the name Oppenheimer, and it was like actual frames like from like the actual film that show how big 70mm film is. I've seen 35mm, and it's like really small, and you can't really tell. You can't really tell like what you have to like hold it up to the light, and like I think I can tell, but like this one, you can very clearly tell what scenes they are, and it was really cool. But yeah, Oppenheimer was directed by Oppenheimer. Yeah, he directed his own biopic. Oppenheimer was directed by Christopher Nolan, and it was starring Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Gary Oldman, and once again, so many people. There was like so many actors. There's like actors that were just in it for like a scene or a cameo. And it was impressive how many celebrities, and some of them like you couldn't even recognize them. Like I I didn't even recognize Robert Downey Jr. until he started speaking. It showed him as Strauss, I think. They had a scene where they're like, how do you pronounce your name? Strauss. Strauss? Strauss. And I thought that was kind of funny. I didn't even recognize him because he looked so different. I didn't recognize him until he started speaking. I'm like, oh, that's Robert Downey Jr. And one actor I did not recognize until I was looking up the cast list for this episode was Gary Oldman. He had one scene, but I was so impressed with how well he was hidden in the character that I added it to the list of like the main characters just now. He played Harry S. Truman. I didn't recognize him. You would think I would recognize Gary Oldman, but he can like hide in his character. Like, you would think, how is he still able to hide inside of his characters? Because he's been doing this for like, what, 30 years? And you'd think, like, yeah, it makes sense that, he hides in his characters in the past, but he's been doing it so long, we should be able to tell it's him. But no, I still didn't know it was him. It's amazing how talented he is. But, Oppenheimer, the thing with that is, I forgot that Christopher Nolan has this thing with loud noises. And yeah, it was loud. It was very loud. It's the first time I've seen a Christopher Nolan movie in theaters. Well, no, I take that back. I saw Dark Knight Rises in theaters. But that one wasn't really loud. I don't know why. Like, I didn't think about it at the time. I don't know if he, like, started that after. I don't know. But yeah, I know Christopher Nolan he's really big on loud now, but I don't know if he was back then. Anyway, so this movie is loud. Okay, so since this is a very important historical movie, there's not really spoilers, but there are spoilers because there is a story going. There's a lesser known story going on, and I looked it up after, and like it actually is true. Like what's happening in the movie and what they reveal at the end. There's a plot twist. It's true. It actually happened. The fact you can have a historical film and have a plot twist. It's like, how do you do? Christopher Nolan is impressive and incredible. Like, I wanted to say incredible and impressive at the same time. So I won't spoil those things, but the more commonly known stuff I will talk about, most notably the bomb. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the actual Trinity test scene, because leading up to that, there was a lot of loud moments, and I knew this would be very loud. It'd be very loud. A nuclear explosion. And so I was, as they were doing the countdown, in the trailers, there's that famous, the countdown in the trailer. When they're doing that in the movie, I was bracing for like really loud, and they do like 2, 1. They push the button, and when it goes off, it's completely silent. You could hear a pin drop in the theater. Again, this theater was packed, and then like the bomb, you can see it, like it explodes, and it's doing the mushroom cloud, and it shows Oppenheimer's face, and he's like got this look of awe. And then it shows everyone else like turning around and looking at it, and everyone has this look of awe. And the silence in this scene, I was not anticipating, and I just kind of relaxed in the moment. I was like taking it in with them. And then the aftershock happened, and it was probably the loudest thing I've ever heard in the theater. And I think everybody jumped. Yeah. And I was telling someone about it after, and there was like, "There's no way it would be that." I know they're like, "There's no way it'd be that delayed." I know there was a delay with like sound is slower than light, but in the movie they point out that they didn't know how big the bomb was going to be. They didn't know how big the blast was going to be, so they were 20 miles away. So yeah, that delay actually checks out. I don't know how accurate, like, the amount of time, if they just like paused it longer than it normally would have been just for the dramatic effect, but knowing Christopher Nolan, it was probably very accurate. It still hasn't been revealed how he produced the nuclear explosion, because he said that he did it practically. He could have easily done it with CG, but Nolan, he is very well known for not liking CG. He'll use it to like touch up a scene, but he does not like using CG for like the main part of the scene. Like in The Dark Knight, when he flips the truck, he did that practically. Like there's a behind the scenes footage in Chicago, I think it was, where they flipped the truck, and they had it was a really cool thing. And even in The Dark Knight Rises, the opening, when they dropped the plane, they did that for real. So he said that they did the nuclear explosion practically. They like recreated it practically. And there's rumors that he actually set off a nuclear explosion, which I don't think he did, because you don't just hide that. I am pretty sure if somebody set off a nuclear explosion, somebody would have noticed. So yeah, he probably did something else. I don't know. Like, they haven't released the behind the scenes stuff yet. I'm pretty sure like once the Blu-ray comes out, we'll get behind the scenes stuff. I am curious how he did it though. That is a very impressive scene. In fact, it was so impressive that if it turns out that he did set off a nuclear explosion, if he did set off an atomic bomb, I would not be surprised. I would be a little surprised. I wouldn't be like, he did what? I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I like that these two movies came out at the same time. The story behind it was actually kind of funny. When Christopher Nolan released Tenet, Warner Brothers, they didn't tell him that it was going to be day and date, meaning it's going to be released in theaters and released on HBO Max the same day. And he did not like that because he was not told. And so he left Warner Brothers. And so when they announced Oppenheimer, I didn't know this. I didn't know that he left Warner Brothers. He always released under Warner Brothers. So when they announced Oppenheimer, I just automatically assumed it was Warner Brothers because Christopher Nolan. And then I watched a video on the story of what happened, and he left Warner Brothers, and so they intentionally put Barbie's release date the same day as Oppenheimer. Warner Brothers did, so that it would take away from Christopher Nolan's movie. What they didn't anticipate, though, was that there was like this online grassroots movement to connect the two movies into Barbenheimer, and so like now everyone's watching them together, like back to back, a double feature, and it raises both movies up, which is good for the industry, especially with the writer's strike going on. They can't promote the movie right now because there's the writer's strike, the actor's strike. The actors join them, so they're not allowed to promote the film. So online, everyone else is promoting it for them, and I think that's great. And this whole Barbenheimer thing started on its own. I think if the studios had started that, which first off, the studios would never do that on their own because they're competing studios and they don't want to connect. They don't want to combine the two. Like, oh no, keep that side. Watch our movie, not their movie. That's the studio. The actors, on the other hand, are supporting one another. There's pictures of Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig buying tickets to Oppenheimer, and then like the cast of Oppenheimer buying tickets to Barbie, and then like even like actors that's not tied to these two, like Tom Cruise released Mission Impossible last week, and he bought tickets to both. And I just saw, before I started recording, I saw Quentin Tarantino. He bought tickets to both. So like the actors and directors like in the industry, like they're supporting this, and I think that's amazing. And because it's like, especially with right now with the way the industry is, like they need to support each other. The studios, on the other hand, are not happy. Probably happy with the amount of money they're making, but I don't think that they want to tie these two films together because they're competing studios, especially Warner Brothers. The reason they even released Barbie when they did, they're like, wait, no, only watch our movie. But this only benefits the industry as a whole, so I don't know why they're upset about it. I mean, I know why they're upset about it, but you know what I mean. If you haven't seen either Barbie or Oppenheimer, I highly recommend seeing them both. I will say that while I liked both movies, I will say that Barbie was probably my favorite of the two, and probably because I think it was because that it's like a more entertaining film in the sense that like it's a hilarious movie. And so, like, it's more entertaining in that sense. Oppenheimer is, like, it's more interesting. It's still entertaining, but it's a much darker film. There's, like, 2 laughs in the whole movie. Like, my audience laughed twice throughout the whole movie, which makes sense. It's not a funny story, so, yeah. But, like, I like comedy, so I'm leaning more towards Barbie being the better of the two, but that's not to say Oppenheimer sucks. I hate when people do that. It's like, oh, I like this one better than that one, so that one must suck. No, they're both amazing movies. But if I had to choose between the two, I'm choosing Barbie. But anyway, go see both movies, and yeah, I'm gonna end this.